My sister got pregnant with my fiancé's child before our wedding. My parents backed her. I severed ties with them. We crossed paths at Mom's funeral. Polite, yet never sisters. I thought I had moved on. I thought I had found peace after the most brutal betrayal of my life. But then, my family called, dragging me back into a nightmare. Only this time, I was the monster. It all started when I was 32, a few weeks shy of my dream wedding. I was floating on air, genuinely happier than I'd ever been. 4 years with the love of my life, the perfect garden estate venue booked, my dress altered and hanging in the closet, 150 invitations sent. My younger sister had even agreed to be my maid of honor. We weren't close, but I desperately hoped this would finally bring us together. Oh, how wrong I was. That Thursday night, when my parents invited me to dinner, I walked into a room thick with tension. Dad couldn't look at me. Mom wrung her hands. And my sister? Usually so lively and carefree. She sat there with this strange, defiant glint in her eyes. Then, in the middle of dinner, she stood up, put her hand on her flat stomach, and dropped the bomb. She announced she was pregnant with my fiancé's baby. And they'd been sleeping together for 5 months. 5 months. I remember the exact sound of my fork clattering against the plate. My mother gasped, but she didn't defend me. My dad, bless his heart, just told me to calm down when I screamed. But what truly haunts me is my sister's face. Blank. No regret, no shame, nothing. She looked like she'd just ordered dessert. My fiancé called 70 times that night. I never answered. My parents? They just kept saying, "We need to discuss this as a family. These things happen." These things happen. My sister had cheated with my fiancé and gotten pregnant. And this just happens? The worst part, the part that still makes my blood boil, is how quickly they switch sides. Within 3 weeks, the focus was entirely on supporting my sister through her difficult pregnancy. She was the victim. Young, scared, weak. I was the one who had been betrayed, but that didn't matter. Never mind that she had shattered my entire life without a second thought. And then they used my wedding plans. All of them. The same florist, the same caterer, the same garden estate I'd booked and put down deposits for. My mother called me to ask if my sister could use them. "Everything's already booked, Hazel," she said, "and canceling would be such a waste." I was too choked up to even breathe, but they did it anyway. 3 months later, my sister walked down the aisle in a white dress, pregnant with my ex-fiancé's child, at the venue I'd chosen, with my flowers and my menu. Only 3 distant relatives declined the invitation: my aunt, cousin, and grandmother. Everyone else went. They smiled, praised the happy couple, and plastered pictures all over social media as if this was normal, beautiful, and not the most grotesque betrayal I could imagine. I spent that day alone in my apartment, drinking wine, staring at my wedding dress in the closet. A dress, a life, that was supposed to be mine. My parents kept calling, trying to convince me to move on and be happy for them, to get past it. They had taken everything from me and now expected me to just smile and swallow it. And then my mother said it. I was selfish for making my sister's pregnancy about me. That was the moment of clarity. My family hadn't just allowed it. They had approved it. They chose her. They chose the traitor over the victim. So I cut them off. Blocked their numbers, social media, moved across the city. For the first time, I was truly alone. And I preferred it to being part of a family that could inflict such pain. Those next 4 years were hell. I won't sugarcoat it. I spent the first 6 months in twice-weekly therapy, just trying to understand how my own family could betray me so completely. My therapist kept asking if I wanted to forgive them. I just wanted to stop thinking about them every single day. I worked tirelessly, got promoted twice, started traveling for business, found new friends who knew nothing about my past. Friends who didn't ask why I wasn't close to my family. I built a new life, brick by agonizing brick. It was exhausting, but it was necessary. Then, about 2.5 years in, something shifted. I woke up one morning and realized I hadn't thought about my sister or my ex-fiancé in a whole week. It was like finally breathing again after being underwater. That's when I met him. Henry. We met at a conference in Seattle. He was sharp, funny, and he represented his firm with a quiet confidence. We sat next to each other at a networking dinner, and I laughed. A genuine, belly-aching laugh, not the polite social kind. We talked for 4 hours about business, travel, everything except family. I almost didn't give him my number, convinced I wasn't ready, but the way he looked at me, it changed my mind. 10 months of long-distance dating, and he asked me to move in. I was terrified. The last time I trusted someone completely, it ruined me. But Henry was patient. He never pushed. He let me set the pace. One night, on his balcony at 2 a.m., I finally told him everything. I'd avoided it for months, but he deserved to know why I flinched when he mentioned his sister or changed the subject whenever family came up. I braced for his shock, his discomfort. Instead, he just grasped my hand. "That explains so much about your strength," he said, his voice soft but firm. "You rebuilt yourself from nothing. That's extraordinary." 10 months later, he proposed. On a random Tuesday night while making dinner, no pressure, no expectations. Of course, I said yes. Our wedding was tiny, exquisite, and ours alone. No family input, no drama, no unchosen traditions. Just us and 10 close friends in Italy. I picked my dress alone. We wrote our own vows. I cried happy tears. I invited my parents, hoping they'd see I'd moved on, built something amazing without them. No one came. My mother called 3 days before the wedding. She said they couldn't leave my sister. Her marriage was failing. She needed their help. I hung up before she finished. Henry asked if I was okay. Better than okay, I told him. I'm free. But life has a way of testing you just when you think you have everything. About 6 months after our wedding, we decided we were ready for kids. Henry was 38, I was 34. We tried, month after month, nothing. After a year, we saw a specialist. That's when I discovered my fertility troubles. Nothing terrible, nothing that meant we couldn't have kids, but it would be difficult. Treatments, monitoring, interventions. Costly, taxing, stressful. At that appointment, Henry squeezed my hand. "We'll do anything," he told the doctor. We started the process. Injections, appointments, testing, hope, disappointment, hope again. It was brutal, unlike anything I'd ever experienced. This wasn't betrayal. This was about wanting something so desperately and having no control over getting it. After yet another negative test one tough month, I broke down. "Maybe this is karma," I sobbed to Henry. "Maybe I don't deserve motherhood. Maybe I'm too damaged." He looked at me with more passion than I'd ever seen. "Don't you dare let them take this from you, too," he said. "Don't give them that power. This isn't about them. This is about us." He was right. We would fight for our life, our journey, together. What I didn't realize was that my old life was about to fall apart in the worst way. For years after I cut them off, my dad called. On a Sunday afternoon. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. He sounded exhausted, aged. He requested a serious discussion about family healing. He said it had been long enough. "Life's too short for this divide," he pleaded, "and your mother misses you." I wanted to hang up, but Henry, watching me, gave me a look that said, "Asterisk, hear them out for yourself, not for them. So you won't always wonder." Asterisk, so I agreed to dinner. Neutral ground. Both families present. My parents, my sister, her husband, Henry, and I. A pricey, quiet restaurant where customers don't make a scene. Stupid me, to think that would protect us. My sister arrived with her 2 children, a 5-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl. Both looked exactly like my ex-fiancé. Every time I saw them, it felt like a knife twisting in my gut. The boy had his eyes, the girl his smile. I felt sick, exhausted. My sister looked different, too. She gained weight, had dark bags under her eyes. Her husband, the man I still can't call my ex-fiancé without wanting to break something, looked incredibly uncomfortable. He avoided my gaze, staring at his plate like it held the answers to the universe. My parents started with forced pleasantries, joking about Henry's business, complimenting my hair. Small talk, like walking on broken glass. My sister managed her well-behaved kids quietly. Everything went wrong when dessert arrived. My mother, in that delicate tone people use to hide something truly pointed, asked if Henry and I were having children soon. Before I could even respond, my sister actually chuckled. "Good luck with that," she said, cutting her son's cake. "I heard you were having trouble. That must be so hard, wanting something you can't have." The table went silent. Henry squeezed my hand under the table, hard enough to hurt. "Excuse me?" I managed, trying to appear innocent. She looked up, completely unbothered. "What?" "I'm just saying it must be difficult, especially at your age. I mean, I got pregnant the first time just thinking about it." "All 3 times," my mother chimed in happily. "Actually, 3 times. You're pregnant again?" My sister grinned, touching her flat stomach. "We were going to announce it later, but yeah, another son. We're so blessed." I felt nauseous. Henry's jaw was so tense, I thought his teeth would shatter. "That's wonderful news," my father responded, looking my way for support. But my sister wasn't finished. She turned to Henry, staring him down. "You must be so patient," she purred. "I mean, if my husband couldn't give me children, I don't know what I'd do. But I guess when you really love someone, you stick it out, right?" The inference, the tiny, cruel smile. Henry sprang up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "We're leaving." My mother grabbed my arm. "Oh, come on," my sister added. "I was just making conversation. Don't be so sensitive." My parents jumped in. "Please, let's not ruin the evening. Your sister didn't mean anything by it. You know how she is. She just speaks without thinking sometimes." They'd always used that explanation for her. But this time, something snapped inside me. I didn't sit down. I just stood there looking at my sister. For the first time in years, I saw her for what she truly was. Not family. Not someone who just aired her thoughts. A person who had purposefully destroyed my life, without remorse. "You want to talk about sensitivity?" I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how you seduced my fiancé 5 months before my wedding. Let's talk about how you got pregnant and announced it like you'd won some prize. Let's talk about how you stole my wedding, my venue, my plans, everything. And not a single family member spoke up to stop you." "Hazel," Dad warned. "No," I practically yelled. "I'm done being quiet. I'm done being the reasonable one. I'm done pretending any of this is okay." I looked at them, my parents. "You chose her. The moment she announced that pregnancy, you chose her. You didn't ask if I was okay. You didn't defend me. You just decided I should get over it and move on because it was easier than holding her accountable." My mother started to cry. "We were trying to keep the family together," she whimpered. I chuckled, a painful, hollow sound. "You didn't keep the family together. You cut me out and pretended it was the same." My sister rolled her eyes. "God, are you still on about that? It's been years. Get over it." "Get over it?" I echoed. "You destroyed my life. You betrayed me in the worst way possible. And you've never once apologized. Not once." "Because I'm not sorry," she spat back. Her husband tried to grab her arm, but she shook him off. "You want the truth? You never owned him. He wouldn't have approached me if he was truly yours. Men only cheat when they're not receiving enough at home." Henry stood next to me, a rock. "We're done here." But my sister kept going. I cringed as she looked Henry up and down. "You know, if you tire of waiting for defective items, you can find me. My fertility is obvious." The table exploded. My dad stood up. My mom gasped. Henry's face darkened with fury. But I laughed. A real, deep laugh, from the bottom of my soul. "You think that was flirting?" I asked her. "You think that makes you desirable? You're pathetic. You stole my fiancé because you couldn't stand that I had something you didn't. And now you're sitting here, pregnant with your 3rd child, in a marriage that's clearly falling apart, trying to seduce my husband because you still can't stand that I'm happy." Her horrified husband stared at her. "Good," I spat. "Show him his true spouse. You want to discuss damaged goods? Look in the mirror. You're 27 years old, married to a man who hardly looks at you, raising kids in a betrayed home. Your son will grow up knowing his father cheated on his aunt for his mother. His Genesis story. Good luck explaining that. That's enough. Dad said, but his voice was weak. I turned to him. You're right. It is enough. I'm done. I came here tonight because you asked me to, because some small part of me hoped you'd finally take responsibility for what you enabled. But nothing's changed. She's still the same manipulative person she was 4 years ago. And you're still making excuses for her. I then looked at the man I once thought I'd marry, red-faced and mute. And you, I said. You wouldn't even talk. You've been sitting there all night like a scolded child, without defending your wife, yourself, or anything. You are the coward I suspected. He started to speak, maybe to apologize or defend himself. I raised my hand. Save it. Whatever you were going to say, I don't care. You're irrelevant. You were irrelevant the moment I left that apartment 4 years ago. You're just a bad memory, and you don't get to be anything more than that. I grabbed my purse. Henry was already by my side, ready to leave. This family is dead to me, I muttered, gazing at each one. Not because of the betrayal. I could have eventually forgiven that. But because none of you thought I deserved better. None of you stood up for me. And even now, even tonight, you're still choosing her. My mother wept. Please don't do this. I'm not doing anything, I replied. You did this years ago. I'm just finally accepting it. I didn't glance back as we left that restaurant. Henry drove us home in silence. Once we were in our apartment, I broke down. I was free, not unhappy. Finally, truly free. But I learned that freedom has a complicated cost. For 3 weeks after that dinner disaster, I was still processing everything. Henry insisted I'd done the right thing, that standing up for myself was healthy, and cutting them off was justified. But late at night, when I couldn't sleep, I replayed the evening, feeling a corrosive mix of vindication and wrath. I needed to discuss it, but Henry was tired of the topic, and my therapist couldn't see me for another week. So, like countless others who need to vent, I went online. I found this family estrangement support group. Anonymous usernames, anonymous stories, all dealing with family trauma. I read dozens of posts about narcissistic parents, abusive siblings, toxic relatives. It was strangely comforting not to be alone. I uploaded my entire story. The betrayal, the wedding, the 4 years of silence, the dinner. I was cautious, though. I avoided names and cities, keeping the details vague enough to be anyone's. I just wanted to vent. The support was swift and tremendous. Hundreds of comments, all saying I'd done the right thing, that my family was poisonous, that I deserved so much more. It felt amazing, like the affirmation I didn't realize I desperately needed. I obsessively monitored the post for days. Every comment fueled something I didn't want to address. Then, for weeks later, my aunt called. The same aunt who hadn't attended my sister's wedding. Hazel, she asked gently, did you post about your sister online? I froze. What? There's a story going around town, she continued, about a woman who got pregnant with her sister's fiancé and stole her wedding. Everyone's talking about it. The details are too specific. It has to be about your family. I felt a wave of nausea. An anonymous support group, no names. How could anyone have connected the dots? You know people, my aunt explained. They piece things together. Spread it on social media. Group chats everywhere. It reached your sister. Good, I said without thinking. My aunt was quiet for a while. Hazel, she said, I understand you're angry. God knows you have every right to be. But this is going to have consequences. She was right. The consequences came quickly. My sister was laid off first. She worked at a neighborhood medical office where the tales circulated like wildfire. Her supervisor called her in and said she wasn't a suitable fit for their family-oriented practice, and they needed to protect their professional reputation. Within a week, she was fired. Social ramifications followed. She became known at the grocery store, her kids' school, around town. From unknown to infamous. Her husband's family stopped returning their calls. Some of their couple friends suddenly became very busy when plans were suggested. I listened to my aunt's accounts, gleaned from the family grapevine, with a spooky satisfaction. My aunt mentioned they were talking about moving. Your sister can't show her face anywhere without people whispering. Someone actually approached her at the pharmacy and told her she should be ashamed of herself. I should have felt horrible. Despite my anonymous post, this was public humiliation. But I didn't feel sorry. Not really. She is ashamed of herself, I remarked. She should be. No, she destroyed my life and felt nothing. Now people know what kind of person she is. That's not my fault. That's just truth catching up. Even as I said it, something felt wrong. I wanted consequences for her, yes. But I wasn't happy watching her lose everything, seeing her life fall apart like mine had. One night, Henry found me browsing social media, searching for mentions of the tale, my sister's name, anything to see what people were saying. "What are you doing?" he inquired quietly. "Just looking." "You've been looking for hours," he said, sitting beside me. "This isn't healthy." "She's losing everything," I remarked, glancing at the screen. "Her job, her friends, her reputation, everything." "And how does that make you feel?" he asked. I didn't respond. The reality was complicated. I felt content, justified. But I also felt something darker, something that made me uneasy with myself. Powerful, but uneasy. I didn't name her, I concluded. I didn't do this to her. This is just the consequences of her own actions. Henry gently took my phone. "Maybe. But you're spending every free moment watching those consequences unfold. That's not moving on. That's obsession." He was right. I knew he was right. I just couldn't stop. Then my sister sued me. That's how desperate her situation was. She hired a lawyer and sued me for defamation, alleging I'd written lies about her online that had ruined her reputation and cost her job. An official letter from a lawyer arrived at my address. She'd found my house, which was creepy. I consulted an attorney, with Henry. After reading everything, he laughed. "She has no case," he said. "First, you never named her. Second, truth is an absolute defense against defamation. Third, she'd have to prove that your post directly caused her specific damages, which is nearly impossible when it was anonymous, and the spread was organic." The lawsuit never progressed beyond preliminary filing. The judge tossed it out. Insufficient proof. No link. Case dropped. My aunt's words from the grapevine gave me a thrill of triumph. She failed to sue me legally. Another loss for her. Another gain for me. But that same week, something else happened. Something that should have been pure joy. I got pregnant. 2 test lines. After 2.5 years of therapy, hormones, mistakes, and disappointments, I sobbed in the bathroom for 10 minutes, unable to believe it. Henry grabbed me, swung me around, and we cried together. This was everything we'd fought for, everything we wanted. Our baby was coming. No one should have been happier than me. Instead, I continuously checked social media for updates on my sister. It was a compulsion. Morning, night, sometimes multiple times a day. I'd look up her name, profiles, remarks, rumors. I needed to know if her situation was worsening, if she was suffering enough. Henry noticed. Of course he noticed. 3 weeks after we discovered the pregnancy, he came home from work and found me on my laptop, discussing my sister again. He closed the laptop firmly, not angrily. "We need to talk." I knew that tone. About what? About the fact that you're pregnant with our child, and you're spending more time obsessing over your sister than celebrating this miracle we've been given. "I'm not obsessing," I protested. "Yes, you are. You check her social media every day, multiple times a day. You're in these gossip groups, reading every comment, tracking every consequence. You're consumed by watching her life fall apart. She deserves it," I defended. "Maybe," he said. "Probably. But that's not the point. The point is that she's still controlling your life. You cut her off 4 years ago, but she's more present now than ever because you can't stop watching her destruction. That's not fair, is it?" He took my hand. "Hazel, you're pregnant. We're having a baby. This is supposed to be the happiest time of our lives. But every time I look at you, you're on your phone or your laptop, monitoring her. She's stealing this joy from you, and you're letting her." I wanted to protest, but tears were streaming down my face because I knew he was right. "I just need to know she's facing consequences," I muttered. "After everything she did, I need to know she's suffering the way I suffered." "And then what?" Henry asked. "What happens after she's suffered enough? Will that fix what she took from you? Will that give you back those 4 years? Will that make you happy?" I couldn't reply. He embraced me. "You're pregnant with our son Hazel. And I'm terrified that when he's born, you're going to be so busy watching her that you'll miss being present for him." It hit me like ice. I imagined cradling my child while covertly checking my phone for my sister's agony. It made me nauseous. "I don't know how to stop," I whispered. "I know," he said, "but you have to try. Because this obsession, it's not justice. It's not healing. It's just another form of letting her control you." He mentioned something that kept me up that night. I had imagined my sister losing her job, being gossiped about, struggling. I recalled my joy at hearing about it. This terrible, dark satisfaction was eating away at who I wanted to be. My life was rebuilt over 4 years. Love, marriage, and pregnancy were mine. I had everything I wanted, but I was too busy trying to make her miserable to enjoy it. Henry was right. She still controlled me, but differently. However, knowing and changing are two very different things. After 4 years, I was still struggling. But then my son arrived. 8 pounds, dark hair, Henry's eyes. He was perfect. Absolute perfection. My condition improved. Not entirely. I periodically wondered about my sister. I occasionally wanted to track her downfall. But Henry's words stuck with me. My child, my marriage, and this new era were my priorities. I thought I'd moved on. Really did. Until I saw him. My son was in my grocery cart. I turned down an aisle and froze as he chatted about everything he saw at 3 years old. Across the store, I saw my 5-year-old nephew, the one from that awful dinner years ago. He was older now, probably 7. And he was with my mother, who looked 10 years older. I should have left. Should have changed course. But I watched them from behind a display. My mother bought generic brands, the cheapest alternatives. Her trolley held only essentials. My nephew was thin, but not alarmingly so. His clothes were worn, yet clean. They didn't see me. I made sure of it. My mother counted change at the register. My nephew asked for chocolates, and she refused. We watched them leave with their meager groceries. What I did next was wrong, but I couldn't help myself. After my son fell asleep, I called my aunt. "How bad is it?" I inquired directly. My meaning was clear to her. She sighed. "Bad. Your sister's husband left her about 7 months ago. Finally had enough, I guess. He has the kids on weekends but pays minimal support. She's living with your parents, with all 3 children. She can't find work anywhere. Her reputation is too damaged in this town." "What's she doing for money?" I asked. My aunt was quiet for a while. "You don't want to know." "Tell me." "She's been trying to sell content online. Pictures. That kind of content. It's not going well." I felt nauseous. Not happy. Sick. "That kind of content," I repeated. "I'm not going to spell it out, Hazel. But yes, she's desperate. Your parents are supporting 4 people on their retirement income. It's not enough. She's doing what she thinks she has to do." The call left me hollow, not satisfied. This was seeing someone descend into darkness and desperation. And I knew I'd helped her get there. My aunt called again 2 weeks later. She spoke shakily. "It leaked," she remarked. "Someone from town found her content and recognized her. It's spreading everywhere. The photos are on gossip sites, being shared in local groups. Everyone's seen them." I thought I'd win. The worst humiliation. What part of me wanted? I felt empty instead. "Her kids," my aunt said, her voice cracking. "It became concrete when they're being bullied. Kids at school found the photos somehow. They're showing them to other kids, mocking them." We met again a few days later. Same grocery store, same time, same day. This time, my nephew was crying. Really crying. Hurtful, desperate sobs. My mother tried to soothe him in the parking lot, but he was inconsolable. His peers were pointing and giggling across the lot. That's him. His mom is the one in those pictures. My son, unaware in his car seat. I watched my nephew fall apart by my car. Saw him yell at youngsters. I saw my mother shielding him. Watched other parents take their kids while staring at my mother with hatred. My son murmured something from his car seat that I couldn't understand. I was captivated by a 7-year-old boy whose life was being devastated by his mother's decisions, desperation, and a series of events that led back to me. The kids left. My mother loaded my nephew into the car. His crying was audible across the parking lot. I drove home automatically. I told Henry what I saw when he got home that night. That child did nothing wrong, I shakily answered. He's 7 years old, and his classmates have seen explicit photos of his mother. He's going to carry that for the rest of his life. That's not your fault, Henry remarked gently. My story wasn't it? I started this. She chose all of them, but her son didn't. None of this was his choice. I watched our sleeping child. Would I want to die if it happened to our son? I'd burn the globe to defend him. Henry drew me close. You're not responsible for her choices or their consequences. Maybe not legally. Maybe not directly. But that night, I dreamed of the small child wailing in a parking lot because of something I caused. A week after seeing my nephew crying, the nightmare started. In them, I was evil. Not my sister. Me. I'd watch myself kill someone while smiling from outside my own body. Sometimes it was my sister. Sometimes her kids. Sometimes faces of strangers became individuals I loved. I'd wake up breathless, sweating, convinced that my dream self was more honest than my waking one. Henry held me when I woke up like that, but he stopped asking about the dreams. I assume he knew. Perhaps we both understood I was processing something I didn't want to address. One afternoon, my son asked me a question that broke me. We were coloring at the kitchen table. At 3.5, they pick up everything and inquire about it. His focus on sketching within the lines had kept him quiet. Mommy, he said, without looking up. What's an ant? My hand froze mid-stroke. What? An ant? Grandma said something about an ant. When we were at her house last week, she was talking to Grandpa. What is it? My mother-in-law. She must have been discussing something with Henry's father. My son had overheard. Your father's sister? I asked carefully. Do I have one? I should have told him the truth. I should have responded yes, that he had a never-met aunt, that it was complicated, and that I might explain later. But I didn't. No, I answered. You don't have an aunt. He nodded, accepted, and resumed coloring. But I felt like the worst person alive. I lied to my child. Lied about something essential about our family. The worst part was how effortlessly it came out. I cried that night after my son fell asleep. Henry discovered me crying in the bathroom. I have no sister, I said. He asked about aunts, and I lied to him. I faced my son and lied. Henry did not speak for a long time. Then he said, words I'll never forget. You're becoming what you hate. Staring at him, I was stunned. I've watched you for 4 years, he said softly but firmly. I've watched you monitor her destruction, feel satisfaction at her suffering, convince yourself it's all justified because of what she did to you. And now you're lying to our son to maintain this narrative where she doesn't exist. You're not healing, Hazel. You're becoming bitter. You're becoming just as toxic as she was. That's not fair, is it? She hurt you. Yes, terribly. But you've spent years hurting her back, even if it was indirect. And now that pain is starting to affect our son. When does it stop? When does the revenge end and the healing begin? We both knew everything he stated was accurate, yet I wanted to dispute it. I don't know how to let go, I muttered. I know, he said, but you have to try. Because if you don't, you're going to pass this hatred down to our son. He's going to grow up learning that family betrayal is unforgivable, that revenge is justified, that lying is acceptable if it protects the narrative you want to maintain. My phone rang before I could respond. Late for routine calls, something compelled me to answer. Hazel, it was my father. He continued, his voice broken. It's your mother. She's been diagnosed with cancer. Pancreatic, stage 4. My world tilted. What? They give her less than a year, maybe 6 months. She wanted me to call you. She wants to see you. I was speechless, unable to think. Terminal cancer. 6 months. I know you're mad, my dad said. I know we don't have a relationship anymore, but she's your mother. She's dying. Please. Without answering, I hung up. I held the phone, trying to digest what I heard. Henry watched me. What happened? My mother has cancer. Terminal. Less than a year. He embraced me. I didn't weep. I stood there, paralyzed, thinking about all the years of quiet, rage, and bridges I'd burned and convinced myself I was fine with. What do I do? I asked. I don't know, Henry confessed. But whatever you decide, you have to live with it. If you don't see her and she dies, you can't take that back. And if you do see her, you have to be prepared for what that might mean. I contemplated my son's query, my lie, and my nephew wailing in a parking lot. About years of obsession and justice masked as revenge. I've become someone I don't recognize, I whispered. Then change, Henry responded. It's not too late, but it has to start now. I stayed awake that night, thinking about my mother dying, my sister battling, consequences and choices, justice and cruelty, and whether you can heal from betrayal without becoming what you despise. I had no answers. For the first time in years, I asked the correct questions. My father called 4 days later. I'd been putting off the first call, saying I had more time to decide. We need to talk, he said. Your mother wants to make a request. I met him at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. I remembered him as younger, but now he was thinner, grayer, exhausted by our family's trauma. He said, she has about 5 months without explanation. Doctors were clear, aggressive. At this point, no treatment will help. Stirring my coffee gave me something to do with my hands without drinking it. She doesn't want you to forgive your sister, he said. She knows she can't ask. She has one request. When she dies, she wants you both at the funeral. He paused. She prefers not to be buried with her wartime daughters. That's not fair, I remarked immediately. I know. She asks me to pretend we're family by standing next to the person who destroyed my life, to grieve as my betrayer does the same. She's not demanding a show. She's not requesting reconciliation. She needs 2 hours of your time in the same room. All done. Bitter laughter escaped me. All done? Father, you have no notion what you want. I do, he whispered. I know her deed. We handled it wrong. We chose her when we should have supported you both differently. I know everything. It's not about rewriting history. Give your mother comfort before she dies. What about my peace? I asked. When do I get it? That stumped him. That night, Henry and I had our longest chat in months. I informed him about my father's desire, the funeral, and my impossible situation. If you don't go, you'll regret it, Henry added. Not their fault. You'll spend your life wondering if you chose right because of you. If I go and stand next to her and watch her cry and pretend to be the sad daughter, you'll know you've done everything you could to give your mother what she wanted in her final days. I hate this, I said. I hate that she's forcing me to choose between my pain and her peace. I know, he replied, but only you can choose. The next day, I did what I should have done years before. This therapist was different from the one I saw following the betrayal. Someone knew how to help me process this new misery. Her office had neutral hues, soothing lighting, and a strategically placed tissue box. I told her everything. The betrayal, wedding, years of silence, dinner, leaked post, sister's demise, nephew crying, nightmares, lied to my kid, and now this impossible request. She took notes, listening without judgment. What do you want? She asked when I finished. No idea. That's false. You may not confess it, but you know what you want. I was quiet for ages. Please quit hurting. I want to think about my family, without rage. I want my son to grow up without this gloom. I want to be rid of her and them. You think seeing your mother before she dies will do that? No idea. Maybe. Perhaps it will hurt more. There's no right answer, the therapist stated gently. However, consider this, which will haunt you more, risking pain or not going and suffering with that question forever. In the evening, I wrote my sister a letter. Not sure why. I wasn't going to send it, but I needed to say it. I wrote about the betrayal, how it ruined me, the years of hatred and obsession. Seeing her life fall apart and feeling satisfied, then terrible about that satisfaction. Seeing her son cry and realizing retribution doesn't heal, it hurts more. I wrote that I was exhausted, but hadn't forgiven her and might never. Tired of hating her, watching her suffer, and letting her dictate my life. I sealed and stored the letter in my desk drawer. I wasn't sure if I'd mail it, but writing it felt good. 4 days later, I called Dad. I'll see
Her, I said. Mom.
I'll see her in the hospital for me. Not you, her, or some family reunion fantasy. I'm doing it to know I did everything I could before it's too late. His voice breaking, he added, "Thank you. I'm not promising anything after that visit. I'm not promising to attend the funeral. After this, I may not speak to you or my sister again. All I promise is one visit. That's all we want." Both of us knew that wasn't true. After one visit, additional requests, pressure, and confusing feelings would follow. However, I would handle that later. Right now, I was taking one step for me, not them. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and desperation. I'd had usual hospital appointments before my son's birth. However, it felt heavier, like the structure understood why people came and wept with them. My father and I were to meet in the lobby at 2 p.m. He would take me to my mother's room. Visit controlled, brief, no drama.
Such was the plan.
But plans never go as planned. I arrived early, anxious, and unable to wait at home. Henry offered to join me, but I had to go alone. I scrolled through my phone in the waiting room, trying not to think about what to say to my mother. A child's voice reached me. "Grandpa, I'm scared." I looked up. I saw my 7-year-old nephew, the same one I'd seen crying in the parking lot. He sat across the waiting room from my father, in too large clothes and with a drawn, pale face. Next to him was my sister. We saw each other simultaneously. Her eyes expanded. Mine probably did. Neither of us anticipated this. My father stared between us, frightened about an impending accident. Nobody moved for a while. No one spoke. I glanced at her across a hospital waiting room. Years of hurt, hatred, and betrayal between us. My sister looked awful. Not petty or satisfying, but seriously disturbing. She'd slimmed down. Disorganized hair was pulled back. She had bruised, dark circles beneath her eyes. She looked broken and defeated. She'd probably left her other 2 kids with her father for the weekend. Just her oldest kid, born from my betrayal, sitting there, horrified about his dying grandmother. He then looked at me, stared at me. His eyes showed recognition. Children process new information by looking at faces. "Dad," he said, pulling on my father's arm. "That lady who?" My father paled. "You're my aunt." The youngster gasped. "Aren't you? You look like Mom. And Grandpa talks about 2 daughters sometimes." The waiting room fell silent. My sister was crying. My father appeared to want to disappear. I stood motionless, staring at this boy who discovered he had an aunt he'd never known about. "Yes," I whispered, finishing. "I'm your aunt. Why haven't I met you before?" It was a simple, innocent question. There was no good reply. "It's complicated," I said. "Did you and Mom have a fight?" I heard my sister sob or gasp. She abruptly stood. I need some air." She hurried down the hallway, shivering. My father pursued her but stopped, torn between his daughter and grandson. The boy seemed perplexed and afraid. "Did I say something wrong?" "No," I answered hastily. "No, you didn't say anything wrong. Should have left. I ended up sitting close to him. "Your grandma is very sick," I whispered. "That's scary for everyone."
Your mom is upset about that.
"Not about you." "Is she going to die?" Childish bluntness. "Yes," I replied honestly. Probably soon. He pondered quietly. Are you upset too? Yes, very upset. Even though you and Mom had a fight? Even though? He nodded as if his young mind understood. Sometimes I fight with my brother, but I still love him. Simple. Innocent. The extent of what happened between his mother and me was unknown to him. The dispute between sisters had gone on too long for him. That's very wise, I remarked. My sister returned. Even though she wiped, her eyes were red and puffy. She halted when she saw me with her son, unsure if she should intervene. Mom, he said, this is my aunt. Her name is... He stared at me, realizing he didn't know. Hazel, I said. Hazel, he repeated. That's a nice name. My sister and I looked. Our eyes met for the first time in 7 years. Not with wrath or hatred, but with the weight of everything we'd done to each other. Lost and ruined.
She seemed to want to speak.
I probably did. We both remained silent. My father swallowed. Your mother is asking for you.
Both of you.
Both. Of course. Wasn't this the plan originally? Get us both here. Insist we share. My sister took her purse. Come on, she told her son. Then, you go first. I'll wait. No, I said. We'll go together. That wasn't forgiveness, not reconciliation, just fatigue. Exhaustion from battling, resentment, and carrying this weight. We strolled down that hospital corridor silently, without looking at each other. Behind us, my nephew grasped my father's hand and asked if Grandma wanted to know he saw his aunt today. I had no reply. I had no answers anymore. My mother died 3 months later. I'm not sure what tranquil means when you're dying of cancer. In those 3 months, I visited her 3 more times. We talked about my son, the weather, and childhood recollections. We avoided discussing the treachery. We never discussed my sister. Basically, we shared space. Maybe it was enough. The funeral was typical. My father's eulogy at church made everyone cry. I received hymns, flowers, and condolences from folks I hadn't seen in years, avoiding the family conflict they knew about. My sister and her 3 children sat across the church. We'd established eye contact when I arrived. She nodded. I nodded.
The end.
Henry kept one hand on my back or mine throughout the service. Although too small to understand, my son was quiet and well-behaved, understanding the significance of the occasion. We watched the casket be lowered to the cemetery from different sides. My father stood between us, literally and metaphorically, trying to bridge an unfathomable divide. People passed, dropping flowers and saying goodbye. Finally, everyone left. My father returned my nephew and the kids to the automobile. They needed refreshments, restroom breaks, and grief relief. Henry let my son see other headstones, giving me space. Now, just my sister and I stood opposite our mother's tomb. Silence extended. I considered leaving. This wasn't necessary. We might keep our distance after death. And then she spoke. I destroyed everything. Her voice sounded faint. I know that. I've known it for years. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I stared over that fresh grave at her. Really regarded her. She was 30, but looked 40. Her life had been terrible. It showed. I became you. I surprised myself by saying, trying to destroy you. I became exactly what I hated. She looked up, perplexed. That post, I said. The one that leaked. I did that. I knew what would happen. Maybe not the specific details, but I knew it would hurt you. I wanted it to hurt you. I deserved it. Maybe. But here's the thing. I knew about the photos when they leaked. I found out before most people. I could have warned you. Could have tried to help you take them down before they spread too far, but I didn't. I made a choice to let it happen. To let you suffer. Her quiet tears were falling. I watched you lose everything, I added. Your job, reputation, marriage. I was content. Though I thought it was justice, it wasn't. Revenge. The worst part is... My voice broke. The hardest part was I didn't care who it harmed. Your kids. Your son. I saw him crying in that parking lot because other kids had seen those photos of you. And even then, part of me thought you deserved it. I deserved it, she muttered. But you're right. My son didn't. None of my kids deserve to suffer because of my mistakes. We cried on opposite sides of our mother's grave. I can't forgive you, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. What you did, it changed me. It broke something in me that I don't know if I can fix. I know, she said, but I can't keep doing this. This hatred, this obsession with your destruction. It's poisoning me. It's affecting my marriage, my son, my entire life. I've become someone I don't recognize. Someone cruel. She wiped her face. I'm sorry. I've been sorry for years, but I didn't know how to say it. Didn't think I had the right to say it. I destroyed your life because I was jealous and selfish and stupid. And I've spent every day since then paying for it. Your kids shouldn't have to pay for it, too.
No, they shouldn't. But they are. My oldest knows the story now. Kids at school made sure of that. He knows his father was engaged to you. He knows I'm the reason you don't talk to us. He's 7 years old, and he carries that shame. I thought of my son, the lie I told him, and the agony we were passing down. I took the letter I wrote months before from my purse. I'd carried it since then, unsure what to do. This is for you, I murmured, walking around the grave to give her it. I don't know if it'll help. It's not forgiveness. It's not reconciliation. It's just acknowledgement of what happened, of what we both did to each other, of where we are now. With shaky hands, she took it. Can I read it? Not now.
Later, when you're alone. She nodded delicately, handling the letter. Thank you for being here today, for talking to me. I know how hard this must be. It is hard. It's the hardest thing I've done in years. But it's necessary. Will I see you again after today? I had no idea how to respond. I don't know. I need time. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not consumed by anger at you. That's fair. She paused. Your son is beautiful. I saw him at the service. He looks like you. Thank you. Your kids, they seem good, resilient. They're surviving. That's about all I can manage right now. We stood awkwardly, confused about ending this chat. Unsure what happened next. I should go, I said. Henry's waiting. My son will be getting restless. Of course, Hazel, she swallowed. Thank you for the letter. For today. For not hating me quite as much as you should. Honestly, I hate you, but I'm trying not to let it define me anymore. I returned to Henry and my son. Back to life. While walking, I heard her crying again. Standing alone at our mother's grave, with a letter containing years of anguish in a few pages. It wasn't healing. It wasn't closure. But that was a start toward not being enemies, even if we're never sisters again. My mother's funeral was 3 years ago. 3 years of carefully managed distance. Healing so slow you scarcely notice it until you look back and realize how far you've come. I never told my sister about the money. I transfer money to my father's account monthly for the kids' school supplies, clothes, and activities. He knows I send it. She doesn't.
Simpler that way.
No, not for her. I'm doing it for those 3 youngsters who didn't expect this catastrophe. About 7 months after the funeral, my sister acquired a job. Nothing flashy. Inventory is her job in a warehouse. Honest work. Now she lives alone in a little apartment. She houses the kids throughout the week and their father on weekends. My father says she's in therapy, weekly sessions, working through everything to improve. Even I'm in treatment. Therapy once a month, down from twice weekly. We talk about forgiveness, healing, letting go of control, and being a better mother to my son by not passing on my past darkness. My father lives alone in my childhood home. Memory-filled and ghost-filled. It's too huge for him. My sister visits Tuesdays. I visit Thursdays. Never overlap. We respect this unsaid border. Until his birthday. Dad turned 70 this year. Henry convinced me to attend his party.
No drama, just a little family.
My son asked whether we were going to see Grandpa, and I couldn't think of a reason to say no. We arrived at 1 p.m. Sister's kids were there. The room went quiet when I entered with Henry and my son. Not uncomfortable, just cautious. Everyone knows the moment is fragile. My sister helped prepare dinner in the kitchen. I caught a glimpse of anxiety in her eyes as we entered. Worry I'd depart. Concerned that I would cause trouble. Worry about ruining our father's birthday. I nodded at her. She nodded back. All done. Like children, our kids gravitated toward each other immediately. My 6-year-old son and her 10-year-old played with building blocks. Her kids joined. Not knowing the past that divided their mothers, they laughed and erected and knocked down towers. My sister and I stayed on separate sides of the room. Though we didn't speak, our father kept us civil. Could you pass this to your sister? Tell her thank you for bringing the cake. Minimal interactions mediated safety. My oldest nephew, whom I'd met in the hospital, approached me and said, "Hi, Aunt Hazel." It clenched my heart. "Hi, your son is really nice. Can we be friends?" I regarded my sister. She watched us, expressionless. "Yes," I answered. "You can be friends." After cake, presents, and awkward small conversation, I watched the kids play in the garden. My sister emerged a few minutes later, stood 3 meters away, and watched them. We didn't talk for ages. Then she whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" "For the money. I know it's from you. Dad's terrible at keeping secrets." I didn't confirm or deny. "My therapist advises me to accept help without questioning its motivations," she added. "That's hard for me, but I'm trying." "So, thank you. It's helped." "It's for the kids." "I know, but still." We watched my son teach her daughter cartwheels. Her performance was poor, but he patiently demonstrated again. "They don't know," my sister stated, "about everything that happened. I haven't told them. Neither has my son. He knows he has an aunt and cousins, but not the whole story. Maybe they never need to know. Maybe we can let them just be cousins. Let them have what we destroyed." I contemplated family history, cycles of sorrow and revenge, and whether they might be broken. "We'll never be sisters again," I said. It was honest, not cruel. "I know," she replied, "but we don't have to be enemies either." Then she stared at me, really watched me. "No, we don't. I don't forgive you. I don't know if I ever will." "I don't deserve your forgiveness," she responded, "but I don't hate you anymore. Not the way I used to. I'm just tired. Tired of carrying it." "Me too." My son shouted for me to watch him. I waved and said I was watching. I noticed my sister had drawn closer. Not much. Just enough to stand together. "Maybe this is enough," she whispered. "Maybe we don't need to be family in the traditional sense. Maybe we can just coexist for them." Our kids were giggling and building something new, unrelated to what we demolished. "Maybe," I said. "Maybe that's enough." We stood in the backyard. 2 women who destroyed each other and were destroyed, watching our children play in the family's rubble. We didn't recover. Not reconciled. We weren't sisters. But we weren't enemies anymore. For those innocent kids who deserved more than our conflict, it might have been enough. It might have been enough because the alternative was perpetuating hatred, teaching our children that betrayal was unforgivable and revenge was justice. Neither of us wanted to leave that legacy. We stood there, broken but striving, not sisters, not enemies. Maybe there was calm in that complex middle. This journey of betrayal, revenge, and reluctant, agonizing forgiveness has been the hardest of my life. It forced me to confront my deepest wounds and the person I was becoming. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever faced a betrayal that forced you to question who you were becoming? What would you have done in my place, especially when it came to protecting innocent children caught in the crossfire? Tell me what you think. I really want to know.